So we are now recording. Usual pattern, I'll go through all the updates and hopefully put them in context so that it's actually a useful session for you to know. We're a small enough group. Do please put your hand up if you want to ask a question at any point. Don't forget to wait till the end. It's all very informal. And we'll just kick straight off. It's not a huge number. Remember, we did July and August all at once last month. So it was I don't think I've ever spoken so fast in years. I was like those terms and conditions at the ends of adverts that take, half a second for them to read. It was ridiculous, really. We've got a little bit more of a leisurely time, should we want to. So Google's kind of design for Living version 3, whatever it's called, their new design of all their interfaces is still going ahead. And you may have noticed that they've just started to add in these suggested little items at the top of your Google Drive. If you go to Google Drive, I think it suggests 3 or 4 when it first opens, and you've got to view more, and it goes up to 12, I think. So the most recent things that you're looking at will appear there. It's just continue to build on that, doing all that they can to make sure you've got multiple access routes to the same thing. And these might be starred or in your favorites or in the recents, of course, but it just means you haven't got to go that extra click to get to it. You just allow to get to that thing that little bit quicker. Hi, Gaz.
Yeah, so I hate this feature because and it's enabled by default. So I get lots of teachers come in and I say, go to the Google Drive. They can't find anything because it's on home. And so what I do is I go into settings and turn that off so it goes to my drive every single time. I don't know. I get what it's trying to do. It's trying to help you. But for me, it just sort of gets in the way. I don't know what anyone else's experience is. No experience.
So go, Dave.
Yeah, I agree. It can be useful. It's to be honest, all you need is recent. I don't see much of a benefit for this because it's only ever been useful for me when I wanted to jump quickly back into something I've been working on recently, and the recent tab does that. It's trying to be clever. I get what it's trying to do, but it does confuse people.
Yeah, it's multiple access routes to the same location, isn't it? It's kind of like the way the web's built, in effect, isn't it, when you think about it? I have to say that in contrast to both those views, the only time I ever go to Google Drive is when I'm delivering training. I just start to type the name of the document I want in the Omnibox, and it finds it for me. So of course I'm familiar with it. I'm required to be familiar with it, and I demonstrate it and talk about it. One, I never browse. I've still find teachers that do that, click through endless folders to find the document because they know where it is, and they can just type the name of it in the search bar if you're going to use the drive. And if you're not going to do that, then just type in the Omnibox. It's much quicker.
Well, that's because you only have 10 documents. Yeah. When you have 10,000, like Gaz and Dave.
Yeah. Well, should we do a comparison? My suspicion is I might have a few more than both of you combined.
Yeah, you might. Yeah.
Hundreds of organizations sharing documents with me. So, but the point is that it's there. It's about that design process, that making it as increasing the ease with which you can get to the places you want to get to. And thank you for pointing that out, Tony, that you can, if you choose to, turn that off. So if your preference is to have a different way to navigate, then in the settings, you can go and make a decision about where it arrives at, and it will arrive at My Drive rather than at the home button. So you've got that option should you want to. So if you're someone who supports other staff in your school and they don't like it, just get into their cog and show them how to change it. So that's the way to do it. And encourage them to just search. Gemini.google.com is the free version of Gemini. So whether you've got a Gemini license or not, you can get to this now. You should start to see links to locations where they've found information for you. So they're kind of combining elements of a Google search into your Gemini. And it was interesting. It dawned on me when we were at the AI event in London. Was it only last Friday? Or was it 2 Fridays ago? I've forgotten now. 2 Fridays ago. And it dawned on me what the difference was between a Google search and a Gemini search. And if you think of it, if we take the analogy of a library, if you do a Google search, it's like you go into a library and saying, I want the latest Dan Brown book, and the librarian turning and gesturing to the whole of the library and saying, it's in there somewhere. because you get a whole lot of links, don't you? And one of them might be to the location where you want to go. And Gemini does that thing of actually goes, oh, that's what you want. So I'll go and get that book and bring it to you. But you might also be interested in these books as well. It actually does the thing for you, which is quite, so it doesn't just go and say, it might be there somewhere, go and look. It says, here it is. But it's just beginning now to combine that, it might be there, this might be what you want, into here's the answer that you were looking for. So it's interesting that Google are kind of building that in. And I've tried it a few times, and sometimes they're very useful, and other times actually they've not been so useful. But it's like all AI. It's the worst AI you're ever going to use. It's only ever going to get better. And of course, if it does work, and you click on it, you're teaching the model, and it will begin to understand that that was a good decision. So it will hopefully get it better more and more. Yes, Gaz.
Not me again.
Yeah, so it's me again. Yeah. So this is a good thing because previously, when you do a search, Google would just come up with the Gemini results, and therefore you'd get your answer, which is great for us users, but for people who've got businesses, it wasn't taking them to their websites anymore. So it's affecting. So a lot of businesses were seeing a huge drop off in the number of clicks to go to their website. So to include a website or the websites they've got the information from is got to be a good move going forward.
Yeah. Okay, excellent, good. Yeah, I never even thought about the business implication of not needing to click on any of the links if you're getting Gemini, because that's now started to appear, isn't it, in the standard Google search? You get a Gemini summary, so that might take away the need for people to click through to a website, which is interesting. But yeah, so it's like all of these things. It's easy access to those things. That's what it's about, isn't it? If it gets you to where you want to go and gives you the information you need, then that's a good thing. So, but it should start to appear now. A very quick one here. If you use Meet on your devices, you should see a much better interface. It's part of this new version 3 of the design. And with certain phones, you would get a very large border around it. That's been pushed out as far as it will go based on the device. So you can see in the pictures here, you've got a much nicer, bigger screen. And all the buttons are kind of floating over the top, which makes it just much a nicer experience. Move on from that. This is really an admin thing, and James will mention it again tomorrow, but I just thought you might be interested in it. If you've got a sustainability officer within your organization, they can actually go and have a look at updated use of your carbon footprint, basically inside the reports, inside your admin panel. And you can interrogate it by single tools as well, so you can see what they've done. I think there's actually a separate button under the reports called sustainability. It's got new next to it. Fantastic idea. We all need to be acutely aware of this. I think the evidence is clear that Google is most environmentally sustainable. It's been carbon neutral since 2007. Please don't ask me about AI. I've asked the question about AI and what that impact is. I don't know, but I have sent me a couple of emails to try and find out. So I'll tell you next month, hopefully. But also, if you have got a sustainability officer, now you've got that, and you can just look at that thing. You could actually also think about creating a custom admin role, so that sustainability officer can go into there and just look at those reports without having all the other gubbins and all the other buttons that they could press and destroy things with. So it just seems like a really nice little custom admin role to give to your sustainability officer, and to allow you to see what you're using. And of course, the all export and things, so you can actually can export it into sheets and things and look at it in a bit more detail if you want to. So that, for me, is a great thing. I think that's a really good thing. We've had the shared option inside Google Spaces, chat spaces, for quite some time. So across the top in a space, you have chat, shared, and tasks. They've moved that shared option now into just standard chat conversations. So this is conversations amongst groups of people that is not a space. You can see, just about see the space bit in the bottom of the image on there. So you get any documents you've shared with that particular person or group of people. If you've not done it through a space, but you've done it through a chat, they will get that shared icon and be able to see those documents now. And that's been missing for a while, hasn't it? Because I do share documents individually a lot to people. So the fact that you can actually get back to them and they can get back to them and they can look at them and see what they all are, I think is a really good thing. So that's a great additional feature in the chat side. I mean, generally, I'm now quite good. If I might think, well, there's going to be more than 3 people in this, I tend to go to a space and make it as a space straight away. But there are some historic ones that are as chats that are still used and are still active, that they should update now, so we'll actually see the documents that we've shared within that, which is really good. This is a developer one, but I'm aware that people attend both the techie one tomorrow and this one as well, so I thought I'd put it in here as well. So if you're making your own apps, you can now save them as drafts, and you can actually send them out to review before you go public with them. And so it's an addition. It's not an area of expertise for me. I don't know about developing apps at all. I can barely write simple HTML. It's not my area of expertise at all. But if you are in that area and you are building apps for your organization, for example, you can review them now before you go complete public with them. And you can also save them as a draft. So that's nice. I think that'll be mentioned again tomorrow, of course, like I said. This, I think, is a really good idea with one rider, which we'll come to at the end. So inside a Google shared drive, the managers now can set folders with limited access. So you might be shared into the Google Drive, into the shared drive. You might have a team of people involved in an activity, and they get access to everything. But within that, you might well have a separate folder where you can actually know only certain people can see this. That seems to me really quite important, that because you want to keep those project documents all in one place, so that those people that do need to access them need to access them. But if there's elements of it where it's, in this example, personally identifiable information that is sensitive, you shouldn't be sharing it very widely. It's quite right you can do that. I think the one mistake that they've made is if it's not shared with you, you can actually see that the folder's there. It would make much more sense to me that if it's not shared for you, to make the folder hidden for that particular person. I'm assuming that's not as easy as it sounds. It's easy for me to say this. Just make it hidden, Google, and get on with it. But the fact that, if shared, people can see it, that's fine, and can access it as normal based on their level of permissions. But if it's not shared, you can't get into it, but you can see that it's there. Dave?
This is huge, and it's been missing for years, and it's been one of my massive frustrations with Google Drive. It's one of those things that you've just been able to do in Microsoft forever. You can set individual permissions on a folder level basis, and you've just never been able to do it in shared drive. So as a result, we've got at least 8 versions of our estates drive, of our HR drive, of our name your function, and we've got one per school, because what we wanted to do was have an estates folder and a subfolder for each school. But of course, with shared drives, you've not got that granular permissions to allow you to do that. Once this lands, we will finally have that, and it will mean that we can get rid of dozens of shared drives. So yeah. Hooray from me. Fine.
Yeah, excellent. Good. I'm delighted. Yeah. I do think that it would be sensible for them to be hidden. I think in that particular instance, it wouldn't matter. The school would know, well, they're not even our school, so they probably wouldn't even care to go in there. But actually, I think in some other situations, it might be that you wouldn't want the person to know that there's additional data involved in this particular shared drive or project or whatever. So
yeah, I agree. Or at least have the option as to whether to allow people to see it or not.
Yeah. Andy?
Yeah, just echoing really Dave's point. I think that has been, for me, since I migrated over 10 years ago, one of the great frustrations of shared drives and previously team drives. He didn't have that granularity that you could make a folder for all staff, or as Dave says, all estates group, and then within it have a subset. Hopefully this restriction that's in beta available, allows us to do that. I'll be really interested to test that out. And have you got a link for signing up to that beta? Because I'd really like to have a go at that. It saved, a bit like Dave said, a lot of faffing about of drives that have got very similar name but have got a different target audience. We can amalgamate those quite quickly into one global one with subfolders to restrict access as and when required.
Yeah. I've put Chris will send the slide deck out as normal with the recordings, but I've put the link in the chat so you got it straight away. So you can action it whenever you like then. But I'm presuming, if I haven't checked this one, I've only read the updates I got. But the link will take you to the page, and usually on the page there should be a link to the registration. And Theo.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I also was gonna say as well, this is really great. I can't believe it's taken so long to bring this up, because it's been driving me nuts internally as well, in terms of getting different teams getting different accesses. So this is really cool. I can't believe that it's taken Google so long to bring this up, because if you think about NTFS in Microsoft Windows, NTFS shares, they've been there for donkey's years, but I can't believe that we're only just getting this now. But I've been having internal discussions with our ELT team how to restructure our shared drives, and then I saw these the other day. I was like, wow, I can't believe that. So really good.
No, yeah, absolutely, a really good addition, I think. Yeah, absolutely, excellent, good. Thank you very much for all that feedback. That's really useful. Okay. This is one I'm really looking forward to. When you're doing a presentation, what I use the present this slide deck into the Meet, because I then stay in the Meet. Not such an issue now, because of course the Meet pops out wherever I am, and if I chose to do it a different way now, but it means I get my little lozenge, my little transport bar at the bottom, so I can move the slides forward inside the Meet. If I'm doing a Meet where I have other co-hosts, I can make co-hosts really easily, and they can get exactly the same lozenge. So it's a great little feature that you get in the paid versions of Google. But the facility to say, well, actually, I can see you've got multiple displays here. How do you want to organize the presentation? I think that is a great additional tool. So I really look forward to that. Particularly useful, you've got your open evenings and things. You got someone there on a Chromebook. Yeah, they can decide, oh yeah, it's that's the full screen. So I'll present to the full screen up there, but I'll keep my notes down here. So I think it's a great additional thing. And you've been able to wangle it, haven't you? And have multiple screens, of course, but it was a bit more complicated in the past. Andy.
Yeah, just a question really on that, I guess, Paul, is I think since, and I know we refer back to this point in time a lot, but since the pandemic, I think the use of Meet within, the teachers in their classrooms has gone down to zero. They very rarely use it. And I've noticed that if we have internally an online Meet, the people are a bit rusty on how to use it. So I think it's only of the likes of our job roles where we're actively on other Meets with other colleagues at different sites and locations and companies who actually use it. I think the teaching fraternity within the school probably don't use Meets all that much, unless you're in maybe a tertiary college where you're having evening sort of revision or classwork feedback activities with students. I like the idea of all these things, and it's great. I just think for a lot of schools, the use of Meets sort of fallen by the wayside for many places. Yeah. I'm keen to know what other people think in terms of their use of Meet within their workplaces.
I think that's right. I mean, this particular function is not restricted just to Meet. It's just any presentation where you've got more than one screen, which is the ease with which I'm just thinking, in the past when I was and we were doing parents' evenings, I would often be at the front showing the head teacher how to get his notes on his screen and getting his slide deck on the full screen for the parents to see. No understanding how they could do that. If this little drop down allows them to do that without that support, that's for me is a plus.
Yeah, when you do a presentation in a hall or something like that.
You would work in a Meet, quite right. But if you've got multiple screens, but it's about large presentations in a theatre, in a hall, school hall, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's another function that Microsoft have had for years that Canva does by default, but it's almost like there's been some blind spots and some oversights, isn't there, from some of the Google tools, and it looks like they're going filling in the holes now.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Okay. I think you probably, those of you who know me well, know that I'm really keen on all the accessibility things. My mantra is, accessibility options are essential for some, but useful for everyone. Yeah. So you see that I've got a large mouse. Yeah, I have it almost on all the time because it makes it easier for you all to follow where I'm going. And so I'm really pleased that they continue to build those in. There's been loads of new things in the Chromebook and World, which we announced last month, about even just head movements to control a Chromebook, which I'm fascinated to have a try out of at some time. These are particularly about improvements to Calendar. If I'm honest, I didn't even know that Calendar wasn't able to be used by a screen reader very well, but apparently it wasn't. But the new functionality will allow it to happen. It will also, keyboard shortcuts will also work. They've been doing a lot of work on keyboard shortcuts recently, and the spacing has been improved, and it will automatically adapt based on what kind of screen you're reading it on, whether it's a tablet or a phone or a PC or a standard device. That for me is really good that they continue to build those in. I think it's really important that we think about that, and that mantra, it's got to be good. It's useful for everyone rather than just the small few. Don't think about legislating for a small number. Make sure it's suitable for them, but make sure that everyone benefits from it. And an improved layout, for example, is going to make it better for us all. Can you use the hand raise thing at the bottom to tell me how many people have been using Notebook LM? Okay, so if you haven't, then I would strongly recommend that you do. It is now one of the additional services. So you've got your core services in the admin panel, you've got all the additional services, and it's now one of the additional services. It is brilliant. And just for those of you who aren't aware, you basically stick a whole load of documents up there, and then interrogate those particular documents. Yeah, you've now also got the option to ask it to do it as a podcast, so it will convert those documents into a podcast, and it will read it out to you. Which for me is, you think education is so time poor. Whether you are in the IT support department or you're in the classroom, it's just you are forever chasing your tail. So anything, if you've got 4 or 5 documents you've got to see from the last meeting that you couldn't attend for a legitimate reason, you think, well, let's just stick all the documents that were up there and get someone to do a podcast of those documents. That, to me, is a fantastic time saver for you. So it's a really, really neat little thing. And when you do use it, if you just interrogate it and ask it to give me a text version, when the text version appears, there's little footnote references. It tells you which particular document it got that piece of information from. And you click on the number, it says, I did this number 1. Click on it, it'll take you to that point in that document in the side panel, so you can see precisely what it's referring to and what it's summarized for you. It's a great little tool.
So this tool is absolutely fantastic. There's a couple of questions. Sorry. One question is, when you, like it's showing you now, you've created a note because you've interrogated your documents and it comes up with a note. There doesn't seem to be a way of exporting that out. You've got to copy and paste it out, which is a bit of a shame.
Oh, right.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I'm not even registered that. Yeah, I'll check that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a question, Paul, before my lovely colleague.
My esteemed colleague.
The podcast features new in Notebook LM. Is this a migration of Illuminate?
And I don't actually know for certain, but I would guess yes.
Yeah, because I've been in the waiting list for Illuminate forever.
Yeah.
Never got in.
Too.
And then all of a sudden this dropped and I was like, oh, have they just done their experiment now and banged Illuminate into Notebook LM?
Yeah. In effect, it works the same now, doesn't it? You would have put up a document inside Illuminate and it would have read a podcast out for you. And now does it in here.
Yeah, but I was guessing, and I'm hoping that in Illuminate, it'll give you more control. So one of the issues is, of course, that when it does the podcast, they're American voices. So it'd be nice to say, English or Australian or Irish or something, and maybe add the number of hosts, maybe have 3 hosts, 1 host, that kind of thing. And maybe you could say, focus on these 2 points when you summarize, when you create the podcast. I was hoping that Illuminate would do more than what this does.
Yeah.
Either way, it's cool.
It's really cool.
Either way, it's a great tool. Andy, do you want to say something?
Yeah, it was just a general question. I mean, I've been tracking Notebook LM being available in the UK for a while, and it's suddenly available. I really haven't had time at the moment to get on it. Just for those maybe aimed at using it like Gaz, just give us an example of why or how Notebook LM differs from Gemini, and why is it better than using Gemini in certain circumstances or not.
Go on, answer.
Was that one for me? I can answer.
Yeah,
the way I use it,
guys, yeah.
the way I explain it is, if you were to use normal Gemini, we are looking at everything. Gemini is looking at everything that's available to it. If you use Notebook LM, it's basically you create a box that's got nothing but Gemini floating around with nothing to look at. And then when you input the data, Gemini's still there, and then it's got something to look at. It's not going to look outside of your box. It's only going to interrogate the data that you put in, so you get a much better personalized response.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think you need to do a quick little snippet of that. Thanks, Gaz.
Yeah, I might just crop that bit out. No, it's a really good summary. It's exactly what it does.
I think that it's something that I did a little AI showcase with our working party last night, and ChatGPT, I know this isn't a Google product, but hey, let's face it, Microsoft copy Google, Google copy Microsoft. ChatGPT has the option just to exclude web results. So I almost see these things coming together, and just as Illuminate's coming to Notebook LM, I wonder whether Notebook LM and Gemini will merge together to provide that kind of rounded functionality.
Yeah, it's funny that. Sorry, I was just going to say, Dave, I was actually speaking with a few of the guys at Google when we were there a couple of weeks ago, and I asked that very question, and they've said at the moment we don't honestly know, but I would imagine it's a. I mean, I was more interested in can we offer it as a paid service? You know me, Dave. Yeah, I think that is the way it's going to go. But it is still early stages. So yeah, we've not got a lot of information on it, to be honest, at this stage. There's no real roadmap for it. I was asking about that as well. I'm sure Google has got this, but they've just not kind of sent anything out yet on it. But yeah, I would imagine that will be a merge at some point, Dave. Sorry, guys, go for it, mate.
Yeah, so one sort of to give a further example of one of the functionalities I've been showing teachers is with Notebook LM is if we input, because you're giving it the data, you can bang in your scheme of learning, add the specification that you've done your scheme of learning to, and then ask it to do some sort of gap analysis and say, based on my scheme of learning and based on the specification, am I missing anything? And because it's only got those two things to look at, it doesn't hallucinate. It doesn't say, can you consider this? And then you can really drill down into it and say, okay, where in the specification am I missing? And it'll take you to that point in the document. So it will laser beam you in.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that we're looking at. And staff are using that now. I just thought that might be helpful to share like a proper tool way of doing it.
Andy?
I can see a showcase coming up, Gaz, for you to feedback in a month or two where you're at with that. That sounds really interesting to maybe share with those of us who haven't got
I'll speak to Chris and see how much I can charge.
Yeah.
Notebook LM is, you notice there's no Education Plus or Gemini Premium badges. It's open to anyone, Andy. So you can go there now. Your staff can go there now. But I presume now, if they haven't got access now, if they've got access already, they'll keep access. If they haven't, then you need to go on and allow it in the additional services in the admin panel.
No,
then staff will get it.
It's just about the, I guess, the momentum and traction with the organisation to be looking at it. We're not that advanced yet. So for people like Gaz, where they are and are actively, spearheading the look of some of these tools and how you can use those in the workplace, some feedback to get us on the learning slope would be really beneficial.
If you're happy to do it, guys, I'm more than happy to give up some time to next updates next month for you to go through some things.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm happy to do that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You know the lesson planner prompt tool that I shared with everyone?
Yeah.
I did another one of those for schemes of learning. So what they're doing is they're filling in the scheme of learning prompt tool. That gives them the skeleton. They then put that into Notebook with the specification, and that's where they can identify the gaps. But then for the more experienced teachers, they've got their scheme of learning already. They can really drill down into that curriculum gap analysis then, altered from that one little box. So I can do some stuff for that.
Brilliant. Excellent. We'll talk before then. November the 7th, I think, something like is the next one. The date's on the last slide, so we'll know. Okay,
Right.
Moving on. I'm very excited
Paul,
about
just
this.
before we kick in there, couple of hands, I think.
Oh, with it.
raised.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
Theo got his hand raised. I think Dave has
I do
as well. didn't he?
apologise.
Theo, do you want to kick in first? I think you were there.
Yeah, my hand got tired, and then I took it
Put it
down.
down. Put it down. Yeah.
You've been told off for making you wait. I do apologise.
Yeah, no, yeah. No, I just wanted to check. Is this LM only doing files? Can you do folders as well? Can you give it like a bunch of folders so you can then analyze
I don't
them?
think so. Gaz is about to tell us
It's
whether that's
file.
possible. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
you
though.
can- at the moment, each notebook that you create, you can put up to 20 files in to a notebook, and that's the maximum at the moment. And it's, don't quote me, it's PDF, it's link, it's doc. There's about 6 or 7 formats that it will accept at the moment, but each notebook is maxed out at 20.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Dave?
Just very, very briefly, just bear in mind though that it is still an experimental feature, so it is perhaps worth just having that as a caveat if you're doing large-scale deployments for staff, because it could disappear at any point, or it could be absorbed into the paid version of Gemini at any point, and history teaches me that that will lead to some sad faces amongst our staff if that happens. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah. There's the first sad face of the day from Gaz. Yeah, but equally it might not. But let's
Yeah, hopefully it won't. I'm just
Yeah.
cautious. That's the only thing. Whenever I see the experimental banner there.
So for those of you who are fortunate enough to have a Gemini education license or a Gemini education premium license, you are going to get a lesson planner type tool in Google Classroom. You can see the Google Classroom logo at the top of the picture there. And it will do a whole, you say the 4 things I'm suggesting that you can do. In effect, like Gemini Gems. It's that kind of thing of a kind of very specific task AI tool. Yeah. And generating quizzes. You've now got quiz generation in Google Forms anyway. So you can actually go to the top of the forms. You've got AI at the top and you can ask it to make your forms. And it's a good first attempt at that. It doesn't, specifically asked it to create a quiz. It won't do that. So I have to click the quiz toggle button myself. I've asked it to add 1 mark for each question and identify the correct answer. When you ask it to identify the correct answer, it adds an asterisk next to the correct answer. So you then got to go out and edit that out and then mark it in the actual answer thing. So it didn't put in the answer key bit of questions yet. I expect that it will, but it doesn't quite do it. But I suspect this will do exactly the same. It's the same kind of tool, I think. And then looking at releveling text and creating some kind of compelling idea. So it's a 4 ready-made ones, but you've got the Gemini prompt. I haven't seen it yet, and it should be with you reasonably soon. Has anyone actually got it on theirs? Anyone that's got a Gemini license?
Yeah,
Yeah,
No.
drop this.
yeah, we've got it.
All
I
right.
saw it yesterday. Yeah.
We had a
Have you had
very
a chance
brief.
to have a play?
I've had a very quick play. Had to go at the lesson plan. It's a little bit counterintuitive at the moment. It asks you what year group you want, and then you click the year group, and it then gives you another drop down of what topic you want to do. You click submit, and then it runs. And then once it's run, it then starts to ask you another load of questions. Rather than asking you up front what you want, it sort of kicks something out and then asks you, does this work type thing. That's my initial thoughts on it. I've only looked at the lesson.
Okay. That gives you a flavour. We'll once it's there, we'll have a proper look at it next month. Maybe I could do a quick demo. That'll be the thing to do. Okay. Then options to add a nice picture at the top of Google Docs. If you like me, you've always had the option to do it manually, but now it's a separate thing, whether there's a whole lot of stock images, or if you've got a kind of a corporate image that you want to include on all your documents, then you can have that and you can upload it and place it in there. It's just a nice little bit of graphics to start the document. That's all. I don't need to dwell on that too much. I think about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe a bit longer, was conditional notifications. We've had edit notifications in Google Sheets for quite some time. There's now conditional notifications where you can say, well, if this thing happens, if that value changes or this cell changes value or whatever, you can then send an email to another person. So you can create notifications for other people, which is really good. Because in the past with the standard notifications, you could only make the notification for yourself. So each individual person that wanted notifications from changes in a sheet had to do it for themselves. So that was it, and it was good. I like that. We use that a lot. We've all got notifications and lots of spreadsheets here at C Learning. So it's a really useful tool. But the fact that you can set notifications for other people, so you know if there are this number of people registered for this course, then send an email to Chris to tell him to do whatever. So the fact that you can do those things now is really good. So that's great. Tables themselves, I really like. As you can imagine, we've got a number of projects across a number of organizations that we manage. And so I've got a table, you know, this Brady built table that you can see on the graphic there for each of the projects we're working on. There's about 6 or 7 currently active. Then I've got a master sheet at the front with just 7 tables that reads off the other table and into here. You can reference the table. In effect, it's like a named range. So in this example, you know, if we wanted the due date, you'd go tasks, square bracket, due date, square bracket, and then continue your formula. So you can reference specific bits within a table by using the kind of the named range rules that you might already be familiar with. I've been using named ranges in spreadsheets because it makes your formulas read much more like a natural language thing. Because you don't, instead of saying A2 to C11 or whatever, you say my data or email addresses, or so you can read what the formula is doing a bit more easily. So I'm a great fan of named ranges. So, and these tables offer the same thing. Just to be aware that when tables are, if you create a new form from now on, all the data will automatically be put into a table like this. You won't just get the standard spreadsheet, you get a table. So, and then the other thing it's telling you is that you actually got the option to make those conditional notifications in the header of the table. You can just see the little icon right in the middle there. I should use the annotation tool to make it see it easy, shouldn't I? I didn't. It's too late now. So this is on mobile devices. You should start to see this to happen. You'll get these little tiles appear at the bottom. Again, this is Gemini Education Premium and Gemini Education only. So when you go to reply, it will suggest some replies at the bottom, and if you hover over them, it pops it into the reply window in pale grey. And if you like it, you click again, it just inserts it in there. Once it's in there, of course, you can edit it. It won't ever be 100%. You'll always want to personalize it slightly and change it and adapt it things. But the fact that you can reply to some things really quickly and instantly is really powerful. And I expect, like I said in the beginning, worst AI you're ever going to use, that will only get better and better and better. So that I think could save you a great time if you're on the road, moving from school to school, and just be able to do a quick response, assuming that they are appropriate, of course. We'll just, you know, for the sake of 2 clicks, that's a really quick thing done, isn't it? So that should be really good. I don't know if you're all aware, but Google are offering a free AI course on their skills shop. Links in the thing, and I've shared it in the chat, so you've all got this. I quite like it. It's a bit text heavy. There's an awful lot of reading in it. But there's some quite interesting things in that I didn't know. So I'm only about halfway through, but it's one that I would recommend. Doesn't cost you anything, and it's just a quite nice little thing just to get a better understanding of it, because it's like all of these tools in it. The more you understand about it, the better you can make use of it. So understand how it functions and how it works, and lots and lots of cited examples, which I really quite like, of different ways of using the tool. Dave?
They're really pushing this. It's started to appear in Google Classroom.
It has, yeah.
Which I'm not sure if I like that. It's kind of, I don't know. It seems like Google is now advertising Google within Google. I don't really think that it's appropriate for us to have that within Google Classroom. I think it's great that, you know, these courses are available, but why only this one and why within Google Classroom? Just
no, I agree, particularly as your classrooms aren't people that would necessarily be using AI. Now, of course, the teacher would, but you would hope that it's not popping up for the students and they go there. Yeah, so I haven't checked that to see whether that is the case or not, but I hope it isn't. But yeah, no, it is a bit odd, isn't it? Adney?
Yeah, no, I noticed that, Dave, that came along a little banner at the top of Classroom, and we had a a couple of teachers about what is this, and I just flipped that on its head and just did a general note to people saying you might have seen it here or otherwhere, because it was elsewhere that it was advertised. But yeah, I think for you it's a bit of an advert in an advert, which doesn't really work all that well. And classrooms,
Because they
not
say
the
that
best
that shouldn't
place.
happen inside
But it is good. It's a good little course
inside
to run through.
Workspace. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Roddy, for that. Apparently, it doesn't show for students; it's only the adults that see that. But even so, yeah, it's, you know, they're quite keen to say, you know, there's nothing in your Google Workspace environment, unless you actively make it completely public, will appear in a Google search. You know, the data is never used for any other purpose. It's not sold for anything. It's not used for any other purpose. And actually, there they are. And you shouldn't receive any adverts. And now they're putting adverts inside there. So yeah, and I could get told off if Google ever watched this video. Yeah, what they do need to think about that, don't they? Because that they are, there's an impact, isn't there? And it's not one that you should really be seeing there. But there we go.
It just
It's there.
confuses people as much as anything else. It's like, you know, like Andy said, it's generating tickets to help desks and things like that. You know, why does this look different all of a sudden? What do I need to do? And well, what you need to do is dismiss it and hope it never comes back again, unfortunately,
Yeah.
or sign up for the course. If they're going to do it, then let's embed lots of great Google courses within Google Classroom for all educators on everything rather than just AI, which, hang on, we're still recording. I'll tell you what I think about that at the end.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But absolutely, because there are lots of other ones, you know, the first days of, they don't call them anymore, but there's, like, you know, basics of classroom, basics of sheets, basics of docs, the whole load of other courses available in the skills shop and in the edu.google.com website, which are really very useful. You know, certified educator level exams and things, and trainer and debater and coach. So there's lots of other courses that they could be offering. And I know there's some admin people on here. The Chrome OS administrator exam is still free. I don't know if you remember, it should be $125 to do the exam. The course is free, of course, to go to the course, but the exam should be $125. The original plan was they were going to make it paid from January 2024. They decided to delay it for a year, so it's still free. So if you've got administrators, you think, I need you to get a slightly better understanding of how the admin panel works. It's very much focused on the admin panel and management of Chrome devices, but that's a big area of the admin panel, and it does cover other areas as well. So if you want to develop their training at no cost, you know, making them allocate time to complete that Chrome OS admin course would actually be a good thing as well. And maybe that should pop up sometimes in the admin panel. There we go. I'll give a link to that for Chris to send off with the slides and the video. I think I must have hidden the date. Same as the last slide. Why am I not getting to the last one? I must have accidentally hidden it. I have got another slide. I know it's grayed out. That's interesting. Okay, so thank you very much. I think that's all of them. I'm just going to exit the slide so you haven't checked. I haven't missed any. Yeah, next update is the 6th of November. For the these, and then the 7th for the other one. Any thoughts? Any questions before we turn the recording off and give Dave a chance to have a rant? Guys?
Yeah, just one thing. Another thing I've noticed with Gemini. So on your slide, Paul, it was bringing up down at the bottom the sources of where it's found the information and its responses. The G button now, where you click, I call it the self-licking lollipop because it's Google googling Google. It'll turn it green if it can find information of a same source, and it'll be orange if it can't. What it does now, and I don't know whether it's just because I've got the advanced license or not, but in the green heading, when it changes color, there's now a drop down arrow which takes you to the link where it's found that passage. So that's an additional feature that's coming quite recently, and I just wasn't sure if it's because I'm lucky enough to have an advanced license, or if that's dropped across the whole of Gemini.
All right, no, I can't answer that because I wouldn't see that because it's green and orange. Remember, I was saying how excited I was about another accessibility feature. I think Google do a great job with accessibility features, but not considering color blindness. You know, their flagship tools. You think, oh, okay. So someone else will have to answer that for me.
Yeah, it was good before because it would highlight, yes, it's not an hallucination, it exists, but now it's directing you to where it's found it. So it's just another feature that's come in.
Excellent.
And
Any other thoughts? Any other questions that people want while you've got this august body of people? Just any general Google Workspace questions people want to ask? Andy?
Just a general point, really, that I think there was some really useful stuff in that briefing. A lot of the times, I think we sit here and nod and think, that's quite an insignificant little thing. But I think there's some quite meaty topics in there, particularly around the shared drives and that, you know, they're, to me, they're major announcements and benefits that I would rather see them advertise those a bit more widely. If they could, rather than, for example, the little banner within Classroom about AI. But I think, you know, if we can take and make the most of those and share those between us, and the benefits are there. So good to see some really meaty stuff in this month's updates. It's good.
Excellent. Good. Thank you very much for that, Andy. Any other thoughts or questions from anybody else? Excellent. I'm going to stop the record. Go for it, Conrad.
No, I just like to say it's my first time on this session, and I mean, it's very insightful, and I can see by coming back, I've been learning a lot across from all the experience within the room in this case. So thanks, everyone.
Excellent. Good to hear that. Yeah, don't tell them I said this because I'll get big-headed, Conrad, but they're a great group of people. They're generous and thoughtful and considered and experienced.
Yes.
One or two exceptions, but I'm going to stop the recording now.